Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Please consider subscribing and check out our Patreon for more. Enjoy the video. The dusty attic creaked under his feet as Gregory rummaged through old boxes. Sunlight streamed through a grimy window, illuminating swirling dust motes. He'd been tasked with clearing out the junk, but each weathered trunk held forgotten treasures. What's this? His hand closed around a leather-bound tome, its cover etched with strange symbols. The book seemed to hum with energy as he cracked it open. Yellowed pages rustled, revealing intricate diagrams and flowing script. Gregory's eyes widened as he deciphered the title, Codex of Transmutation. No way, he breathed. A real spellbook? Heart racing, he scanned the pages. Incantations for shapeshifting, bodily alterations, even full transformations leapt out at him. It had to be fake, right? Magic wasn't real. But something tugged at him, urging him to try. What if it worked? The possibility was too tantalizing to resist. Gregory cleared his throat, focusing on a simple spell. Mutatio digiti, he intoned, picturing his index finger elongating. A tingling sensation spread through his hand. He gasped as his finger stretched, growing a full inch longer before his eyes. Holy, he whispered, waggling the unnaturally long digit. It was real. The book was real. Giddy excitement bubbled up inside him. The possibilities were endless. He could become anyone, anything. But he had to be smart about this. Start small, test the limits. Gregory reverting his finger and tucked the book into his backpack. He'd need privacy to really experiment. That night, safe in his bedroom, Gregory pored over the spellbook. He tried minor changes, altering his hair color, smoothing acne, even giving himself perfect vision. Each success sent a thrill through him. As the days passed, his transformations grew bolder. He gave himself muscles, became taller, even tried out different ethnicities. But there was one transformation that kept catching his eye: gender switching. The idea both terrified and fascinated him. What would it be like to be a girl, even temporarily? The spell seemed far more complex than the others he'd tried, but the urge to experience it grew stronger each day. Finally, heart pounding, Gregory decided to take the plunge. He cleared his throat and began to recite the incantation, picturing a female version of himself. A dizzying sensation swept over him as his body began to shift and reform. He squeezed his eyes shut, overwhelmed by the strange sensations. When the tingling faded, he slowly opened his eyes. The face staring back from the mirror was undeniably feminine. Delicate features, full lips, long lashes framing wide eyes. Chestnut hair tumbled past slim shoulders. Gregory, no, she needed a new name now, gaped at her reflection. Eloise, she breathed, the name coming to her unbidden. I'm Eloise. She ran her hands over unfamiliar curves, marveling at how different everything felt. Her center of balance had shifted, her skin felt softer, even her senses seemed altered. A giddy laugh bubbled up. She'd done it. She was a girl. Eloise spent hours exploring her new form, trying on clothes, testing out her voice. It was exhilarating and terrifying all at once. But as the novelty began to wear off, doubt crept in. This was just temporary, right? She should change back soon. But did she want to? Part of her was reluctant to give up this new experience so quickly. Just a little longer, she decided. She'd stay like this through the night, then turn back in the morning. It would be fine. But when Eloise awoke the next day, panic set in. The transformation hadn't reverted on its own as she'd hoped. Hands shaking, she grabbed the spellbook and flipped to the reversal incantation. Revertere ad formam pristinam, she chanted desperately. Nothing happened. Again and again she tried, growing more frantic, but her body remained stubbornly female. Tears welled up as the truth sank in. The spell had become permanent. She was trapped. No, 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 Eloise sobbed, curling into a ball on her bed. What had she done? How could she face her family, her friends? Her entire life had just been turned upside down. A knock at the door made her jump. Gregory, you up yet? You're going to be late for school! Eloise's breath caught in her throat. School? How could she possibly go to school like this? But skipping would only raise suspicion. I'm not feeling well, she called out, wincing at her higher-pitched voice. I think I need to stay home today. Her mother's concerned voice came through the door. You sound strange, honey. Can I come in? No, Eloise yelped. I mean, it's probably just a cold. I'll be fine. I just need to rest. She held her breath until she heard retreating footsteps. This bought her a day, but what then? She couldn't hide forever. Eloise spent the day in a daze, alternating between panic and disbelief. She scoured the spell book for answers, but found nothing to undo her transformation. As evening approached, she knew she had to make a decision. She couldn't keep this a secret. Eventually, she'd have to face the world as Eloise. The thought terrified her, but what choice did she have? Taking a deep breath, she opened her bedroom door and made her way downstairs. Her parents' shocked gasps when they saw her felt like a physical blow. Gregory? Her father asked uncertainly. What happened to you? Eloise's voice shook as she tried to explain. It sounded insane even to her own ears. Magic spell books, transformation spells gone wrong. But as impossible as it seemed, the evidence was right in front of them. The next few days were a blur of tears, arguments, and frantic phone calls. Doctors were baffled, unable to explain Eloise's transformation. Friends reacted with disbelief and confusion. The entire community buzzed with rumors and speculation. But life, as it tends to do, gradually adjusted to the new normal. Eloise's parents, though still struggling to understand, did their best to support her. Legal documents were updated, new clothes were bought, and plans were made for her to return. Eloise? Her friend Tyler said awkwardly as she sat down in homeroom, less weirded out by her situation. To her surprise, she found herself opening up. So lost, she admitted during lunch. Everything's different now. None of us really know what we're doing either. We're all just figuring it out as we go along. She learned to navigate the intricacies of makeup and fashion, figured out how his hand felt when it brushed against hers. One day after class, Tom, I know this is probably weird, considering everything, but I was wondering if maybe you'd want to go out sometime? Like, on a date? Eloise somehow tell she used to be a boy. Her family, too, continued to struggle with the change. Her younger brother oscillated between treating her like nothing had changed and looking at her with a mixture of sadness and confusion, as if mourning the son they'd lost. One night, unable to sleep, Eloise crept down to the kitchen for a glass of water. She found her mother sitting at the table, staring at an old photo. I didn't hear you come down. Eloise sat beside her, glancing at the photos. Birthday parties, family vacations, moments from a life that sometimes felt like it belonged to someone else. You miss him, don't you? Eloise asked quietly. You, sweetheart, no matter what. But yes, sometimes I do miss Gregory. Is that thing that had changed hanging heavily between them? Finally, her mother spoke again. Are you happy, Eloise, as you are now? The question caught her off guard. Was she happy? There were moments of joy, certainly. Moments when being Eloise felt right, felt true. But there were also times of doubt, of longing. Her mother nodded, squeezing her hand. I suppose that's true for all of us, isn't it? Life is complicated. We just have to do our best with what we're given. As Eloise lay in bed that night, she had a meeting. Your grades are excellent, and I think you'd have some unique perspectives to bring to an admission. The words stuck with Eloise long after the meeting. A fresh start did sound appealing, but could she really leave behind everything and everyone she knew? That night, she found herself drawn once again to the leather-bound spellbook that had started it all. She hadn't opened it since that fateful day, too afraid of what other consequences it might bring. But now she felt compelled to look through it one more time. As she flipped through the pages, a slip of paper fell out. A note she hadn't noticed before. The handwriting was spidery and faded, but still legible. To the wielder of this tome, know that magic always comes with a price.
The changes you make may become your truth, for better or worse. Choose wisely, for the path of transmutation is not easily reversed."
Eloise's hands shook as she read the words. It wasn't just her spell that had become permanent. The book itself was designed that way. A wave of emotions washed over her. Anger at her past self for being so reckless, grief for the life she'd left behind, but also a strange sense of acceptance. This was her reality now. She could spend her life longing for what was, or she could embrace what could be. With newfound determination, Eloise threw herself into college applications. She crafted an essay that was honest about her unique journey, hoping that the right school would see the strength and resilience she'd developed. Acceptance letters began to trickle in, but one in particular caught her eye: a small liberal arts college across the country. "We believe your perspective would be a valuable addition to our diverse student body," the letter read. It was terrifying to contemplate moving so far from home, but something about it felt right. A chance to reinvent herself once more, this time on her own terms. The day Eloise left for college was bittersweet. Her parents hugged her tightly, tears in their eyes. "We're so proud of you," her father said gruffly. "You've handled all of this with more grace than I ever could have." Her mother pressed a small box into her hands. "A going-away present," she explained. Inside, Eloise found a delicate silver locket. When she opened it, she gasped. On one side was a photo of herself as Gregory, grinning at the camera. On the other, a recent picture of Eloise, smiling just as brightly. "To remind you that both parts of you are worthy of love," her mother said softly. Eloise's vision blurred with tears as she hugged her parents fiercely. "Thank you," she whispered, "for everything." As she boarded the plane that would take her to her new life, Eloise felt a mix of excitement and trepidation. She had no idea what challenges lay ahead, but for the first time in a long while, she felt ready to face them. Her first few weeks at college were a whirlwind of new experiences. She threw herself into classes, joined clubs, and slowly began to make friends. To her relief, most people accepted her at face value, without the weight of her past coloring their perceptions. One evening, as Eloise was studying in the library, a girl from her philosophy class plopped down beside her. "Hey, mind if I join you? I'm totally lost on this week's reading." Eloise smiled.
"Sure, pull up a chair. I'm Eloise, by the way."
"Zoe," the girl replied, returning the smile.
"Thanks, you're a lifesaver."
As they worked through the assignment together, Eloise found herself relaxing. Conversation flowed easily, punctuated by laughter and the occasional frustrated groan at particularly dense passages of text. "We should do this again sometime," Zoe said as they packed up their books.
"Maybe grab coffee?"
A familiar flutter of nervousness stirred in Eloise's stomach, but it was overshadowed by a spark of excitement. "I'd like that," she replied. Over the next few weeks, Eloise and Zoe grew closer. They studied together, explored the campus, and spent long nights talking about everything and nothing. Eloise found herself drawn to Zoe's quick wit and kind heart, but she hesitated to label her feelings. Was this just friendship or something more? The question came to a head one crisp autumn evening. They were walking back from a movie, the streets quiet and bathed in the warm glow of streetlights. "Can I ask you something?" Zoe said suddenly, her voice uncharacteristically serious. Eloise's heart skipped a beat. "Of course." Zoe took a deep breath. "I really like you, Eloise, as more than a friend. And I hope, you might feel the same way. But if I'm reading this wrong, please tell me." Time seemed to stand still as Eloise processed Zoe's words. Her mind raced through all her doubts and fears. What if Zoe couldn't accept her past? What if she wasn't ready for a relationship? What if? But as she looked into Zoe's eyes, warm and full of hope, Eloise made a decision. She was tired of letting fear hold her back. Slowly, giving Zoe plenty of time to pull away, Eloise leaned in and kissed her. It was soft and sweet and over far too quickly, but it felt like coming home. When they parted, both girls were smiling. "I take it that's a yes?" Zoe asked, a bit breathlessly. Eloise nodded, feeling lighter than she had in years. "It's definitely a yes." As they walked hand in hand back to the dorms, Eloise knew she had a lot to explain. Her past, her fears, the complicated journey that had led her to this moment. But for now, she let herself simply enjoy the warmth of Zoe's hand in hers and the promise of what tomorrow might bring. Thanks for watching. Be sure to check out Patreon for a lot more content and early access to YouTube videos.